This is Ego-Utilitarianism, and this presentation is going to be about the self. The self is the central focus of Ego-Utilitarianism. So let me begin by introducing you to your own self. Most, if not the vast majority of people are not familiar with one's self. Now, let me bring back a key definition. Object. Anything existing in reality. Anything that may be apprehended by the mind. Reality is composed of objects, and objects can be composed of other objects. Self is any object's definition. Any set of criteria that describes you is part of yourself and its own self. Self is the concept of you or any other object. As you can probably see, all objects are selves, and all selves are objects. So in ego-utilitarianism, I recognize that criteria is the same as definitions, is the same as concepts, and it's all the same. They're all mental sets used to classify objects in reality or selves with respect to itself. Be sure to distinguish between a concept and the object that is an instance of it, of the set. The concept of a unicorn exists, but an instance of it doesn't. All concepts exist by default. Self is not limited to animate objects. All objects, inanimate or animate, are selves. Any component of a composite object is also its own self. Ego-utilitarianism believes that the theory of evolution and natural selection transcend just biological objects and apply to all objects in reality. Human selves can be partitioned into two subsets, the genetic and mimetic self. I'm unsure if there's another set. You can see that the genetic self dissipates as you get further away from one's own physical body, you know, like the relationship between you, your kids, your family, distant cousin. You can see genetics as far as the commonality of one's own genetic self starts to dissipate, kind of like the inverse square law. The further you get away, it's inversely proportional to the square of the distance from your own genetic code. This is analogous to the mimetic self dissipation as you get further away from one's own mind. So ideas can dissipate. The further away you get from your mind, right? Your mind, let's say, is just a cluster of ideas, or of ideas. Whether it's true or not determines if it's knowledge. So those set of ideas is your mind, and as you get further away, you know, maybe someone who's had the same upbringing as you, the same education, same intelligence, they're likely to have similar selves, but it's unlikely to be exactly your own mind, because just one idea that's different distinguishes that mind from another. So when I talk about mimetic, I'm talking about a meme, which is an element of culture that is handed down by non-genetic means. So ideas, elements of culture, right? Tradition, just behavior that's not genetic, but these are all essentially ideas, or the realm of ideas, because the mind is just such an important evolutionary feature of biology. So again, a meme is an element of culture that is handed down by non-genetic means, like ideas. Self and empathy. We share elements of our definition with other objects. The amount we share in common, the amount we have in common, we have with respect to another self, well, that was written poorly, is proportional to the empathy we should have for the object, right? So the amount we have in common with respect to another self is proportional to the empathy we should have for the object, for that object. So again, I'm going to have more empathy for a human being rather than another animal. I'm going to have a random animal. I'm going to have more empathy for an animal than for an inanimate object. I'm going to have more empathy for an inanimate object, that's made of organic matter, or not organic, but made of matter, than something that's something just made out of pure energy. Just because I share more in definition, just everything that describes me. So proportionally, the amount I have in proportion to another object. And I'm not sure about the weighting on this, if genetic is more important than mimetic. They might be inherently related somehow, but let's distinguish them for now. And so you can see you can see how it kind of works genetically, right? I'll have more empathy for my kid rather than a random human. I'll have more empathy for my neighbor, or someone who's of the same ethnicity or race as me, than someone randomly who's a different race of me, all things equal. Right. So you can see the proportionality. So it kind of explains defending your own race, culture, nationality, all these things kind of, you can kind of see it working already in humanity. That the fact that the more we share in common with somebody, the kind of more we care about actually them. Let's say, so culture would be culture, tradition, race. Race is actually genetic. Nationality, culture, ideas, political beliefs, these are all mimetic. And so the degree we have in common with them, all things equal, will be proportional to how much empathy we have for them. Okay, so imagine a let me get a little abstract. So imagine in a seemingly infinite set of binary digits, in other words, a set of real numbers, to represent every possible descriptive criterion. Therefore, I've mapped the self onto the set of real numbers. Therefore, each real number describes a unique concept or possible object, just like genetic code, only extrapolated to memes as well. You can ignore this for now. This is pretty abstract, but it's going to be important if I want to take this philosophy any further, because I'm going to need to validate everything mathematically using set theory and game theory. So again, I did this. I've set up all the definitions and explained what self is, so that math and mathematical strategy like game theory can be applied to it, and we can see exactly how an ego-utilitarian model explains reality, not only culturally or how life behaves, but even how to unify biology and physics and economics or something like that. I mean, I'm hoping it can yield some pretty profound observations. So the self binds all objects. Again, we have things in common in definition. So this inherently relates us to other objects that share definition or elements of definition. The concern of oneself is both represented in the word ego and utilitarianism, since all objects share some commonality with other objects in definition, and therefore share some part of their self with each other. There's some redundancy here. I didn't edit, but I just wrote that real quick. But you can see selves can be ideas themselves, right? So each idea, each genetic code, each element of the genetic code, each of these, all these ideas, concepts, all these are in of their own selves, their own self. So within you, you're composed of other selves. Your definition is composed of other definitions, other terms and those terms have definitions. So you can see how all selves are composed of other selves. I'm not sure what the basic unit of self is, of reality is, or what the basic, if there's a basic unit of self. But as you can see, it's already set up to go to get. So my philosophy is already set up so that you can get pretty abstract with it, and I'm hoping to somehow formalize it using mathematics and rigorous logic. But I just wanted to introduce everybody to what I thought the concept of self is. And I think the most important feature is that I think the theory of evolution and natural selection apply to this, and and just acknowledging the theory of evolution and natural selection and how the mechanics work and how nature works, we can derive morality from this, and I'll get into that in some future presentation. But thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, criticize. I'd appreciate if you have any comments, if you have any insight of where I'm going, because I've given it a lot of thought, but of course I can't uh, I can't deduce all logical conclusions myself. But if you can see where this is going, or if this is somehow contradictory in any way, let me know. Thank you.